Okay, if we're in for a long one, and this is a lot of external work this time. So continuing from where we left off, we're gonna actually continue with cleaning up the rear of the house. So get rid of any excess things that are sticking out the wall. So we see that we had that little bit of wood sticking out that's not that didn't serve a purpose at all. We've got loads of screws that we're holding up the antennas. Don't need them there anymore, so let's remove them. And we're gonna get rid of any debris that was there, because we're gonna be doing some painting today. So I'm trying to get it as even as possible, and I even got a belt sander and an angle grinder and trying to use that. It didn't do much progress because it is concrete that we're working with. I mean, an angle grinder should work, but I would have been there forever just trying to get it perfect. But I'm not going for perfection here on the outside. I am going for height. So let's climb up, and this is where my boiler is. So it's attached through the concrete, and it's concreted in. The boiler itself is doing a great job, but this isn't very nice to look at from the outside. So gonna try to clean it up as possible, clean it up as nice as possible, get it even, belt sand it, grind it, and then paint it and seal it as well. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that we've got a clean surface. Well, not clean, just basically I don't want to get paint on things. So let's just try to move things along, because I don't want paint splattering everywhere. Before we can move on with paint, I'm still in a cleaning process, so we're actually gonna get up this massive ladder, and you can see we've got some things growing on the roof. I forget what those things are called. It's not plumbing, but basically where water gets collected from the roof when it rains, so it can drain down the drains basically. So yeah, we've got loads of mud, we've got grass, and maybe like birds like brought seeds up there or something. I don't know how it started growing, but it basically is. So I need to get rid of that because there's a lot of weight being held by these plastics. So I'm gonna wear some gloves and try to put all those mud and grass in this little container. Not really working because it's much heavier than I expected actually, and it's just splattering all over the floor. But it is what it is. I'll clean up the floor later. And I don't exactly have a lot of room to move up there, so I'm just gonna have to shimmy the ladder as I move from one area to another, trying to clean it all out. Hopefully we won't get any more grass build up there. However, got there in the first place. It must have been animals, maybe squirrels. I know we get squirrels climbing up on the drain pipes, because I had one of the squirrels actually move some of the roofing tiles. Don't know how they had the strength to do that, but I do remember that I saw them up there moving the tiles somehow, actually knocking them over in the middle of the night. I was like, what the hell? Okay, so we got a good base now. We need to just clean up any excess dirt, because remember I did sand it down with a grinder and a belt sander. So before we start painting, let's just give it a nice quick blow, and onto the paint we go. So up the ladder, down the ladder, back and forth, because I haven't got scaffolding, and I don't want scaffolding. I think this is the best scenario, I guess. I mean, I do see people use some really long rollers, but I don't have that, and this method works just fine for me. Now this area was a bit of a nightmare. I am on a shed actually. You can see my ladder is like on a shed, and it was just rather difficult because I had to get past loads of different crevices, including the drain pipe, the aerial, against the windows. I didn't really have much movement room to go around that. And we're on to 16,000% speed. See me zoom along. But yeah, I didn't get to finish a whole layer, one coating on the whole of the house, because it's starting to get dark pretty quickly. And just resting my paint bucket on the canopy, just because it actually is a lot of weight, and it's really awkward actually be up there on the ladder with painting with one hand, with the paint bucket in another hand. Yeah, it was really awkward. On to day 2, and continuing with coat 1 still. And yeah, you can see I'm kind of ignoring the windows at the moment because I am going to get them replaced later on. I mean, those windows are ancient. The downstairs, they have Julian, my neighbor that is judging me right now, doing a lot of work while he's just sitting there and chilling. He has double glazed windows, which I do not at the moment. So I'm going to get them replaced maybe next year, because this home is actually under London City Airport's pathway. So they actually contribute to a lot to noise pollution. So I think that entitles us to free windows from them. They got a scheme going, which I haven't contacted them properly. I sent them out an email, but I need to call them up. Anyway, got one coat of paint on, and it looks amazing. It looks very nice and clean. We haven't done the patching for the holes yet, but we'll do that later on. Hola. Hola. Buenos días. But you can see those holes still need patching. We'll do that later on with some silicone, external silicone, not internal. Ones that got some stretch, I think that's the terminology. I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong. But it looks 10 times better than it was before. At least it's nice and clean now. Oh, we must have done 2 coats of paint already. I must have been blabbering on. Okay, so onto the silicone we go. There's loads of holes there from previous fixings, whatever they were. I think that little grate or whatever that is. No, I don't know. That little external thing. It was covered with a grate. I think it was removed. I think that's where all the aerials were. But yeah, let's get rid of them and patch them up, because I don't want any air going behind those bricks. I don't even know if it's actually bricks, or is it just... I know it's a concrete house, but like... What? Like, how is that formed? Surely it should have had some supports to form the concrete, otherwise it'd just been like mud, wouldn't it? You can see I got like a massive patch of concrete sticking out. I don't know what that was, and it's like impossible to grind down any further, so I'm just trying to make it as even as possible. Patching up where the boiler is, making sure it's nice and sealed. And the door itself has got a bit that's a bit loose, so I'm just using more silicone to actually join that together so it doesn't flop about. But that is pretty much the end of the job now. And how good does that look? It's so much better than it was. It looks so nice actually, I'm very happy with it. Windows are still to be replaced, but leave that for another time. I mean, one thing at a time. I'm doing like 20 projects at once. Give me a break. So different, isn't it? And we're going to move on to a different project, and instead of the rear, it's going to be the front now. But before we do that, let's have a look at the squirrel. He's a bit cheeky because he keeps on going on the roof. He's just jumping. I'm not sure if it was him or his parents that tried to knock the tiles off the roof, but they did. It happened, and if it hit someone, that would not have been good. Cheeky little guy. Okay, so that is my downstairs neighbors, and the guy that owns the property finally is getting some renovation done, because the tenants that live there finally moved out after living there for like what, 13 years. They lived there a long time, really nice people. And yeah, they also, the landlord that owns the one that is more nude color really offered to paint the front of my house as well. That was a really generous offer of him, so I very happily accepted the offer, which actually got me the idea of that I should actually paint the back of the house. So yeah, it is a bit not chronologically ordered, this video, but yeah, painting together. As we're at the front of the house, I actually need to fix the storage shed that I'm using for my bicycles. I was actually storing my bicycles in the hallway, which was a nightmare. I hated it so much, but I got permission from my downstairs neighbors to actually build this little shed here for my bikes, and they accepted, so that's what I built. I think I built that like 2 years ago. But the locking mechanism was dead, so I'm going to replace it with a higher quality one. But yeah, I need to grind it off because I think I don't know why. I think it was just fixed in place somehow. I don't remember how I did it. And you can see there's actually some cowboy work there done. You can see the top of the storage shed while I use some spare cut-offs, which I shouldn't have used because we are working, this is outside we're talking about, so like in the winter it gets really wet. So that was a bad idea. I need to cover that maybe with some composite decking or whatever you call it. I don't know, some composite material that is 100% waterproof or something like that. But what I'm doing now is I'm basically joining these pieces of wood together. So I'm cutting in some slots and I'm going to JB weld them together so they're like welded together. I'm using that word together a lot, yeah, excuse me. So sadly, due to the wonderful British weather, I didn't get to film what I did here because it started pouring down rain. So I had to use a heat gun to dry the raw wood that I just revealed the raw wood underneath the paint, because it started out pouring rain and I needed to epoxy the areas that I cleaned down, because I don't want it to be wet while I apply the JB weld. But yeah, a few areas here, here, here. Dun, dun. So I'm gonna give it like a good 4 hours before I apply the paint, because I don't want to leave this shed without a lock overnight. And before we move on, I did paint this side of the wall as well, just to make it all nice and even. Very happy with this. Looks nice and cleaner, because to be honest, this closed drive, there's a lot of tenants that don't really care about the properties because they're obviously not the owners, so it's a bit, it sucks a bit that like not many people care about this area. Anyway, we've got some mud droppings or whatever they are, mud droppings, some mud on the floor, and I was trying to figure out where this came from, because when I was doing the doors, when I was painting them, when I was left them to dry, I came back to notice that there's mud and things dropped on them. So I figured out it was actually from this canopy that you can see that I'm clearing here, and I don't think this was ever cleaned. So I'm using some hand wire brush, really good and powerful one, but doing it by hand was just a nightmare. So I actually going to switch to a power tool in a minute, and this same kind of thing, a wire brush attached to my power drill, and I'm using a lot of hot water as well just to clean it off. But the drill way made things just so much easier, and yeah, it looked like a mess before. Got loads of, I don't know what the hell, growings, but there's something. It's like they look like almost like mushrooms that would grow on trees. Moss? Maybe it's moss. I don't even know what moss is, but it's a possibility. But yeah, I think this took around 2 to 3 hours, and the result is really good. It's really nice. So I'm not going to get any more droppings, because I work outside quite a lot, as I don't really have a workplace. I mean, I have a studio, but it's more for 3D printing stuff. I mean, it's not really nice to sand indoors, but I make do with what I have. So I work in front of the house quite a lot, and you can see these tiles, they move back and forth, they like slot under one another. So I'm doing that just to reveal more of the tiles, so I can clean it as best as possible without actually having to dislodge them completely. And you can see there's some new neighbors moved in already since the start of this video. So in the middle of the video, I mean, I said that the previous tenants of my neighbor moved out, and they got someone there new already. Interesting people. I see they got some ring lights going on. I wonder if they're making some videos of something. Anyway, that's a nice and clean canopy. Very happy with that. And the next morning, I want to show it off. Odd colors. It looks better from far away, but I'm very happy with it. At least it's nice and clean and hasn't got things growing on it. Guys, thank you for listening and watching me babble on this video about random stuff that I'm doing. But it's a good log for me to see what I've done. Till next time, guys, I'll see you later.